Consideration. It's been whispered in my ear that that letter may not have gone out yet, but I know he's at least considering it seriously with respect to, remind me the country? Gambia.
Well, we're into the last months of this presidency and the last months of the Secretary's service. This problem is not a new one. It's been going on preceding this administration. Don't you think it's time that the administration stepped up and started enforcing our laws with regard to countries that don't cooperate with us?
I know that the Secretary takes that very seriously, and as I say, he's taking under consideration this, in particular with this one country. There may well be more.
My time's expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Conyers, for his questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here today. I want to talk about the increase in Haitians entering the United States through the southwest border. As a result, the Department of Homeland Security announced today a change in policy toward Haitian asylum seekers entering the country at the southern border, and all Haitians, not just those convicted of serious crimes or posing a national security threat, will be subject to removal. I understand that to accomplish this at the southwest border, Haitians will be detained and placed in expedited removal proceedings, whereas previously they were granted parole. What guarantees do we have that in the aftermath of the earthquake and cholera epidemics, the Haitian government will issue travel documents for significantly increased numbers of Haitian removals?
We are in conversation with the Haitian officials. The Secretary did announce that change today, but let me assure you, Mr. Conyers, that we do not, Haitians aren't going to be treated any differently from anyone else. If they have an asylum asylum claim or claim to be a refugee, we will consider those claims along with everything else. I think you know that it's right now the emergency situation that I'm aware of is actually on a California border with some 4,000 Haitians there. I just was in the Central American region and heard from a number of those countries, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, that they're aware of, with their communications with their fellow governments in South and Central America, of 40,000 Haitians who are en route to the United States. This is why the Secretary made a decision based on what he perceives as, based on facts that he's reviewed, that the conditions in Haiti at least are improved enough for us to change the policy back to treating Haitians just like everyone else. And that includes affording them the rights and privileges that our system provides refugees and asylees.
Well, that's encouraging. Let me turn now to the November 2014 priorities memo directed to the Department of Homeland Security agents and officers to prioritize the immigration enforcement of individuals with serious criminal offenses. Can you talk to us about ICE's efforts to locate, detain, and deport individuals with a criminal history?
Yes, sir, I'm happy to. Obviously, one of those other things that we are focused on, who out there, fugitive-wise, do we need to focus on as a priority, because we can't get to everybody, but as a priority, to focus on those folks who are out in the community that we know need to be apprehended and returned to their countries. We have a very strong unit that works on only fugitives. They review records, they prioritize those fugitives based on the nature of their crimes, how long ago their crimes occurred, and they are out there on a constant and daily basis in the early hours of the morning, trying to find folks where we have at least information on where we can encounter them and take them back. We've had quite a bit of success in that regard, and we also have operations that occur on a focused basis, like Operation Border Resolve earlier this year, where we are trying to locate those folks that are fugitives and have escaped our system, and we need to get them back.
Let me tell you that we have a number of other questions that I'm going to send you, and you can respond in writing, and we will incorporate them in the record.
Yes, sir.
I think that would be the easiest way with me, with only 15 seconds left, to begin this discussion. I think we need to become more familiar with the details of the strategies that you are using, and I want to encourage you to help us locate and detain and deport those individuals with a criminal history.
Yes, sir. Again, one of the Secretary's priorities, and we are doing that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair thanks the gentleman and recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Smith, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to use my question time to make a statement because after 8 years of asking Obama administration officials why they refuse to enforce our immigration laws, I am confident that the committee still won't receive satisfactory answers today. The President's immigration policies continue to put innocent Americans at risk. The administration has ignored laws, failed to enforce laws, undermined laws, and unconstitutionally changed immigration laws. Among these dangerous policies is the President's unconstitutional executive amnesty, which requires immigration and customs enforcement officials to release criminal immigrants into our neighborhoods where inevitably they commit additional crimes. Over the last 3 years, ICE has released 86,000 criminal immigrants into our communities. They had been convicted of over 230,000 crimes, which include homicide, aggravated assault, sexual assault, kidnapping, driving under the influence, and other serious crimes. Over 30% will be arrested again for killing or injuring more innocent Americans. The administration's intentional release of criminal immigrants amounts to the largest jailbreak in American history. And every day, Americans across the country are paying a steep price. Last year, ICE deported a total of 235,000 illegal immigrants, the lowest number in 10 years. This was only 2% of the 11 million illegal immigrants in the country, and of these, only about 70,000 were interior removals. Under the current administration, ICE has started counting turnbacks at the border as traditional interior removals in an attempt to pad their deportation figures. Previous presidents did not count turnbacks as deportations, but then no president has done so little to enforce immigration laws. Investigation of immigrants who overstay their visas has disappeared. At least 40% of the more than 11 million illegal immigrants in the country entered legally and overstayed their visas. Yet ICE only deported 2,456 visa overstayers in 2015. This is less than 0.1% of the total number of visa overstayers. In addition, the administration has done nothing to hold any of the 300 sanctuary cities accountable. These local governments violate federal law when they refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities in the apprehension and deportation of illegal immigrants. Congress mandated the cooperation of local officials in an immigration enforcement bill in 1996. I know I wrote the law. Tragically, the number of sanctuary cities has exploded under the Obama administration. During testimony at our last oversight hearing, Director Saldana couldn't name a single instance in which ICE tried to prevent a jurisdiction from becoming a sanctuary for criminal immigrants. The lawlessness of these sanctuary jurisdictions has had disastrous consequences. Last year, Juan Francisco Lopez Sanchez, a 5-time deported career felon, shot and killed Catherine Steinle. Lopez Sanchez was set free to prey on innocent Americans like Ms. Steinle because of San Francisco's sanctuary law. Unfortunately, similar tragedies have occurred across the country as a result of these laws. So add these casualties to the current list of Americans who have become
Saldana
victims
just looked to
because
her
of
left
President
and
Obama's
gave
immigration
a small
policies.
smile
These facts and figures demonstrate that
on the word
enforcement of our
murder.
immigration laws runs contrary to the Obama administration's amnesty agenda. Until the immigration policies of this administration are overturned, illegal immigrants will continue to victimize innocent Americans. Mr. Chairman, I have a minute remaining, and I'll yield that back to you for a question.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Director, I want to follow up on the statement that Mr. Smith made and put it in the context of what Mr. Conyers observed, and that is that your organization operates with limited resources. And yet, in fiscal year 2015, you gave back to the Department of Homeland Security $113 million in funds that were specifically appropriated for detention and removal. Why did you give this money back, given the problems that were just cited by Mr. Smith and the fact, as Mr. Conyers noted, you have limited resources to begin with?
Absolutely, sir. That is something, this whole issue of how we manage funds for specific categories, in this case beds, is extremely important to me and to our folks in the enforcement and removal area, as it is obviously to you. Last year, it is very difficult for us to anticipate the number of people coming across the border from one year to the next. It goes up and it goes down, even over the course of
I
the year.
understand that, but Mr. Smith noted that there are over 250,000 individuals in this country who are not lawfully present in the country and have committed crimes in the country. So that number continues to rise, and therefore, while it may be difficult to predict how many people are coming across the border, it's not difficult to know that you got 250,000 who are already here, who shouldn't be here, and therefore should be, until they are deported, in detention facilities or using resources to detain them and then remove them.
And we are, sir. That is exactly what we're trying to do. This enforcement priority approach that you have, you and I disagree on as to its wisdom, focuses not on the release of criminal aliens, but on the apprehension and removal of criminal aliens. Our statistics alone with respect to the beds, those are filled by people with one or more convictions that we are preparing to remove from the country. I think the last number I saw was something like 84% fit into our top priority. So we manage these beds as best as we can. Last year we had some beds that were not filled. This year we have the opposite problem. We have more people in beds than we can afford, but we're working very hard to manage that problem through the end of the fiscal year.
I would recommend that when you have limited resources and you have a huge problem that's not addressed, you not return money back that could be used to keep Americans safer than they are right now. At this time, it's my pleasure to recognize the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This hearing, as we know, comes just days after the bombing and attempted bombing in New York and New Jersey. The alleged perpetrator, Ahmad Khan Rahmani, has, we are very thankful, been arrested. The law enforcement investigation is ongoing, and I know that you cannot comment on that because it is an ongoing investigation. I would note that there is a classified briefing for members of Congress this afternoon. I certainly intend to attend that. But I just think it's important to say what the case is on the facts that are currently known. It's clear that the facts as we know them indicate this is a case about terrorism, radicalization, national intelligence, law enforcement, but it can't be about immigration vetting because Ahmad Khan Rahmani came to the United States as a child, and how you would vet a 7-year-old, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, he came, his father was a small businessman. In fact, his father contacted the FBI 2 years ago to express concern about his son, and I hope to find out in the classified briefing why the FBI kind of blew that off, but we will find out. I hope that people around America won't conflate that situation with the Syrian refugee situation that's unfolding. We know that DHS has a dedicated office to counter violent extremism, and I hope to hear more about your efforts in that regard.